silent running.
I sank a ton more time into Subnautica than I was expecting. Going in, all I knew was the game took place underwater, and the depth really surprised me. We're going to look at Subnautica to see if the code is good, if it's player-friendly, looks nice, and plays well. You'll be scanning the plans for your own Wilson during this ocean-bound survival adventure, and your goal is quite simple. Get rescued. It sounds easy, but you'll have to build, scavenge, and explore your way off this water world. If you're an avid dog paddler, you'll still be the best swimmer on the planet because it's a short list. You're the only swimmer on the planet. The only human swimmer, anyway. I'm going to do my best to keep this relatively spoiler-free, so I won't be discussing any of the plot. There is one area I'll use that's a little special, but I'll blur the depth meter so you won't have much of an idea about where it actually is. I've finally come up for air, and overall, I'm pretty pleased with the quality of Subnautica. There's a sensible story, and you're hooked right from the very first moment. Your adventure starts with an alarm going off, the sound of running to an escape pod, and then you see your ship go kaboom right before a loose panel starts your nap time. The game then really captures modern living by you waking up to everything being on fire even though you've done nothing wrong. Smacking touchscreens is more useful in the future and helps you escape your seat. Some short work with a fire extinguisher leaves everything good as used, and you then fire up your handy-dandy tablet. Wait, is that hard drive clicking? You work for Altera, an interstellar megacorp using a tablet with its own built-in AI, and it's using a spinning disk. Although I guess that does kind of match the company, seeing as...
Remember that materials you gather are the property of the Altera Corporation. You will be liable to reimburse the full market price. Your current bill stands at 3 million credits.
The screen is clear, and sometimes using this thing in the water makes it hard to see. Once you get into the tablet, the little AI assistant tells you to check out the databank, and the tooltip tells you to close the tablet. Which one do you want me to do, Subnautica? I choose the irritating option here and start browsing my tablet and ignoring the tooltip. Then I realize I should make sure you can read this, so I reopen it to clear that alert. There's a warning that your Blueprint database is corrupted, which really questions the wisdom of using spinning disk for your emergency survival plans. Hopefully you're paying attention here, because you're given free rein immediately. Here's how you move, here's how you open the instruction book. Okay, now go build an underwater colony on a hostile alien planet. And now it's time to dive in. Wow. Even on repeated playthroughs, and when I was putting this together, I'm still captivated by this moment. If you go out the upwards hatch instead, your ride here is the focal point, and it's currently a mechanic special, no lowballers, I know what I've got. Intuition suggests you should go forage around the big honkin' ship for supplies, but it's a lengthy swim. You really won't want to do that though, because assuming the hungry fish don't eat you or the radiation doesn't do you in, you'll likely die of exposure. After a few minutes of searching, I finally find the rock-colored breakable thing and give it a few smacks. Subnautica will always highlight the closest limestone, whether or not it's in your field of view, and the notification can clip through the terrain. Even though almost everything in sight can be picked up, it'll only show the limestone, so don't feel too bad for missing it for the first or 10th time. It's weird that piece is rendered in world space, unlike your goggles. If it rendered in front of everything, then you'd be able to see it all the time. I gather some precious rocks and then climb back into the lifeboat to use the fabricator that's right next to the exposed electrical lines. While I'm covered in seawater. Did you know that as little as 12 volts can be deadly if your skin is wet? Oh, that is fun. I should probably see about fixing that panel. This is the core game loop. Forage for supplies, fabricate, rinse, and repeat. My next trip down, I accidentally swim right into a geothermal vent. It's okay though, there's stuff in here and I only get boiled alive a little. Most survival games have a bit of a window after you run out of resources before it does you in. Subnautica is not one of those games. Dying means losing some of the items you've collected since you last left your habitat. Your food resets to half, and that can hurt or help depending on how you're doing up to that point, but food isn't easy to come by this early. One of the big ways you'll learn how to fabricate new items is with the scanner, which you can use to learn more about the local wildlife. Your databank will have their official name and some flavor text with hints on how you might use that thing. But this is my planet, so I give them my own names. Fast food, weird squid, Reggie, simmer down there bud, water bug, that dinosaur I can't remember the name of, I'm not just saying that, that's what I call it, fart manatee, grocery bag, and kamikaze bastard. That last one was a freeze frame, and this is the only time you'll get a really good look at them.
お前はもう死んでいる。
I make a knife and the tablet lady has this to say.
Weapons were removed from standard survival blueprints following the massacre on Abraxas Prime. The knife remains the only exception.
Ah, this cheese slicer is as good as it's going to get. This is actually pretty exciting. Subnautica just told me that combat isn't going to be how I solve my problems, and just like that, I go from predator to prey. Vulnerability will never completely go away. There's always going to be something tougher than you out there. Difficulty scales as Subnautica pushes you into increasingly tougher environments to get supplies, starting with caves. I go into a cave to get some more sweet mats, and the lady in my tablet says this.
Be advised, a common complication for cave divers is loss of orientation, followed by eventual asphyxiation.
Oh good, nightmare fuel. I was worried I'd get a good night's sleep. As I'm exploring, something happens that still makes me anxious. I'm in absolutely no danger, and the music suddenly picks up. All of the music is pretty intense, and this happens all the time and has yet to fail at getting me worked up. It isn't a danger cue. Subnautica's way of warning you about danger is a creature roar, and passive creatures make these really soft sounds to let you know they're passive. Most of what I need is in a cave, and those kamikaze fish have me a little shy. They're really hard to spot, and I can't for the life of me figure out how to deal with them. Scanning fish is iffy even when they're the size of a bus, so I can't get any info on these guys either. Does deep water make you anxious? Let's find out.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Be advised, a common complication for cave divers is loss of orientation, followed by eventual asphyxiation. Oxygen.
Yeah, I may have cut that one a little close. While I'm exploring, I find a time capsule. These are from other players who have finished the game and usually have some loot, a note, and a picture they took on their adventure. If you weren't expecting that, you now have to subscribe. Tablet Lady has an update on the ship for me.
Emergency. A quantum detonation has occurred in the Aurora's drive system. The reactor will reach a supercritical state in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, the radiation suit has been added to your blueprint database.
That's not what quantum means, but I can explain the finer details to my tablet while I'm slipping on my lead shorts. Hey, radiation suit means I could go poke a look around that ship. I pack a sack lunch and head on over to check it out. On my way towards the back of the ship, I hear a whale call. There's a ton of stuff on the ocean floor here, too. Maybe I'll find something useful. Okay, so turns out that's not a whale. On the plus side, forgetting to go to the bathroom before I left is no longer an issue. Tablet Lady mentions the reactors aren't looking so hot, so I work my way back to the reactor and get it patched up. I'm doing my best to save the world, and these little ungrateful bastards decide I'm on the menu. Disaster averted. It's back to collecting, scanning, diving deeper, and building ever more stuff. The only real thing of note that happened was, this. So, how well is Subnautica put together? The opening cutscene is wonderfully short and sweet and uses some excellent environmental storytelling. You are guided through picking up tools and how to put out a fire, which is exactly as much of a threat underwater as you would expect.
If we're underwater, how could there be a...
Oddly enough, skipping the opening cutscene magically puts out the fire and unfortunately skips all of the tablet introduction. So if you skip the cutscene, you're skipping the tutorial and you'll be a fish out of water. The tutorial is pretty good if you're cooperative. You have to try to follow it for it to work and be willing to read a bit. For a novice with no game experience, this would be pretty rough, but a gamer who knows what a tutorial should look like will fare much better. After these first few rough moments, things go way smoother since you now know where to look. The top hatch can be misleading, emphasizing going to the wrong place. Leaving through the bottom hatch will drop you straight into the water, and assuming you follow your checklist, you'll start surveying for supplies, and it can take a while if you don't know what you're looking for. The hint shows up on the closest limestone rock next to you, so if the closest one isn't the one you're really looking at, you won't see it. It doesn't show up for anything else, so you really don't know what you can interact with at first. Once you get past this, the tablet voice is a great guide. It'll subtly, or sometimes not so subtly, let you know that what you're doing is safe or not, including one of my favorites.
Detecting multiple Leviathan class life forms in the region. Are you certain whatever you're doing is worth it?
With the tutorial being so easy to miss and relying so much on text dumps, tutorial quality gets a 3 out of 5. When I first started playing, I felt that the aim speed was a little low for my liking, so let's check out the configuration. The settings all have some pretty reasonable defaults and are easy to change. Subtitle speeds, volume levels, and pretty much all the standard tweakables are here. Graphics settings take effect immediately, so it's super easy to see what effect different settings have and pick what you like really quickly. If you mess up one of the sliders, there's a faint outline of the default position, and when you move the slider close to it, it'll kind of stick in that spot. That's a cool way of doing defaults. It's really simple and smooth, and I've never seen this style before. Rebinding keys is simple, but there's no obvious button to remove a bind, and there's no visual cue that you're currently assigning a key. The same key can be mapped to multiple bindings, but since you can't easily unmap a button, it would be really easy to mess up your keybinds here. At the bottom of the options, there's a troubleshooting section that will link you to the forums, as well as being able to send feedback at any point during play. It's pretty rare to see a studio make sending feedback so easy, and Unknown Worlds clearly wants your feedback. One thing I noticed that was kind of odd is when I changed the aim sensitivity, the slider ended up staying in the middle of the bar. It changed alright, but the slider just graphically was not in the right position. Real-time graphics configs are nice, but a messed up key mapping system and glitchy UI elements bring configuration in at a 3 out of 5. Subnautica was released in 2018 and had a number of patches and updates through 2020. When developers start fixing little things like improving localization and tweaking UI colors, that really says they feel their code is complete and that the game doesn't need any more fixes. But I found a boatload of glitches, and I wouldn't think much of it, except these are really obvious bugs, and it didn't take any real effort to find them. More than once, I'd come across a creature that wasn't animating correctly, and supersonic fish became so mundane I quit paying attention to them. Lockers in particular had this really annoying bug where opening them would glitch out if you weren't quite close enough, and you'd have to back out or do some funky movement to get them to work again. This one in particular was easy to do, and one of my biggest frustrations. Storage wasn't my only frustration while base building. The moon pools can't be rotated, and they're not very cooperative to put down. Normally there's a preview of how a module will connect to the rest of the base, but the moon pool doesn't have one of these either. It is by far the most frustrating base element. You have this really sweet mech suit, the prawn suit, that you use for mining and exploring some of the areas in the map. It's a ton of fun to use this suit, but if you want to use it out of the water, it starts getting really broken really quickly. So if you use the prawn suit anywhere dry, bring a grappling hook if you ever want to get it out again. Another movement bug that really surprised me is the prawn suit is significantly faster if you move diagonally. This used to be a really common bug in first-person shooter games, and I haven't seen it in a while. I'd like to talk about these movement bugs in more detail, so be sure to subscribe and watch for that video. During my playthroughs, I'll play with styles anywhere from easygoing to intensely combative just to see where the code breaks, and that's how I got caught in a death loop. During the fire sequence in the intro, if you stand in the fire, you'll start to burn and then die. Over and over again. Even after you respawn and you're not in the fire, you'll continue to burn to death. All of these bugs are right in the main flow of gameplay, and a player just going through the storyline could easily encounter all of these, which is why I'm really surprised they're here at all. Leaving such obvious bugs in was a deliberate choice, so I don't feel bad giving the code quality a 2 out of 5. Subnautica was designed to be an immersive experience, and it's really easy to lose yourself in the game. I was expecting the game to make an affair out of exiting. Saving and exiting is incredibly easy, and the game doesn't hide the exit button or guilt you into staying. Pausing is always allowed, and you can step away whenever you need to. There's no gameplay time reminder, but Unknown Worlds really wanted to make sure you had a good time with their built-in feedback system. Crafting was easy, and nothing was artificially inflated to take up more time. Content is arranged to keep you on the interesting path and away from the edges of the map, but it's done in a way that feels natural. You pick your own difficulty gradient, and you can make your experience just about as easy or as hard as you like. Tablet Lady will point out when you're near something interesting, and you can drop a massive number of markers to make finding places easy. This game wants you to discover everything it has, and it makes you feel welcomed and comfortable. Unknown Worlds cares about their audience. It shows with all of these little details. Player friendliness gets a 5 out of 5. There's quite a bit to see in this game, and the core dev team was just 5 people. Unknown Worlds grew with time, but there's quite a bit to see made by not many. The map is quite expansive and really uses the vertical space with various caves and canyons. Low visibility and hazards at all levels of play will keep you tiptoeing through, which really helps the map feel just absolutely massive. You'll find bits of story all over the map. They're an audiobook type deal, so you can listen to them while you play, and the voice acting is pretty good. I really felt invited to explore every little pocket because something unique was always there, and the level design makes great use of soft walls that keep you from feeling like you've actually run into the border. Areas are small enough not to feel repetitive, but big enough for you to find that perfect spot for your base. It has a kind of procedural feel to it at first, but this map is static. Given its size, that really speaks to how much effort went into making this world. For a team that started with 5 people, this is a whale of a map. Depth of content gets a perfect score at 2 kilometers down. 5 out of 5. There's only a handful of moments where you're really pulled out of play, and they're all significant story moments. Big story events are more of a theatrical display, and you're free to just ignore them and go on if you're not interested. Concise, informative, great visual storytelling. Cutscenes get a 5 out of 5. Visually, this game is absolutely stunning. Right from the very first dive in, it's a visual treat. Pretty much all the fish glow in the dark. The colors are vibrant and vivid, and there's so much play with light and dark. There's so many great little touches, like the beams from lights being visible. After a Wikipedia dig, I found out that's called the Tyndall effect. Huh. Everything stays in the same visual style, detail levels are consistent, and it all feels like a good match. Ambient lighting changes to reflect the mood of an area, and it really captures the feeling of the deep sea. This ocean feels real, like your deep sea imagination given form. Sounds are just as good, from the submarine creaking in deep water to the calls of the leviathans being heard in the distance. It's such a vivid, cohesive experience, and that makes it all the more frustrating when there's some visual bug like a yeet fish blasting off, a locker glitching again, or the tablet clipping through something. I genuinely want to give this game a perfect score for visuals, but the semi-transparent UI and visual glitches put it at a solid 4 out of 5. Overall, this game feels fairly solid. Choosing to leave in so many obvious bugs makes me really critical of their mistakes, but gameplay is cohesive enough to cover the game's weaker points. Great visuals, excellent storytelling, and a surprisingly large environment come together to make this an amazing experience. Subnautica has a pretty good difficulty gradient, and it never really feels like you're in over your head. Every system offers a ton of different aids, and you have really granular control over how difficult you'd like to make the game. Most of the challenge in Subnautica is from yourself. None of the creatures are powerful, and you have systems for dealing with most of them. Instead, the challenge comes from creating panic and then letting you make a mistake and get yourself killed. That's why I always hang this poster next to my main entrance. Subnautica will test your nerve, and all you need to do is keep calm. They're just going to make that incredibly difficult. From start to finish, this game was an absolute joy. With the bugs, I don't think I'll have a second playthrough. I'm going to play something else. Maybe the sequel. Thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and comment below on what types of videos you'd like to see next. You can help make new videos by subscribing on Patreon. Subscriptions are only $1 a month, and it helps me afford all the pieces I need to share. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.